Washington and Spokane voters are famously independent, voting for the person and not the party. Voters want to know the person behind the policy. Join host Sulani Madsen as she interviews 2016 general election candidates for local, state, and federal office on the experiences that have shaped their lives. The Meet the Candidate series is sponsored as a community service by the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, the Law Office of D.C. Cronin, and We Believe, We Vote. Now, here's your host, Sulani.
Welcome to Meet the Candidate, and our guest today is Judge Linda Tompkins, who is running for the Spokane County Superior Court, Position 10. Welcome, Linda. And first question to all candidates is an opportunity for you to describe the duties and responsibilities of the office.
Superior Court is a court of what's called general jurisdiction, meaning that it isn't limited in the types of cases that may be heard as far as the upper financial or the criminal matters. It is a court that also sits in appellate function for
Appellate meaning appeal.
when district court decisions are appealed. May go to the Superior Court and from there, Court of Appeals, etc. But we're that first layer of appellate function for district court matters. We hear trials. We also supervise the juvenile division of Superior Court, so we're hearing juvenile dependency matters, juvenile offenders, adult criminal, adult civil matters involving family law, for example, probate. It's a very wide jurisdiction that we carry with it.
Okay, it sounds fascinating. So it's a very broad jurisdiction, and one of the things we try to talk about here is the things that shape your background that you bring to this job, and starting with formal schooling. Where did you grow up and start your education?
I grew up in a little town, Bonners Ferry, Idaho, my hometown. Love it dearly. It shaped me. It's a good thing I didn't shape it, but nonetheless, I had a great education there and a great foundation with service, Girl Scouts, Jobies, 4-H, little organization called Luther League that was attached to our church. From there, went right to University of Idaho. And my dad was a vandal. My husband and I are vandals. Our children were vandals, and he doesn't know it yet, but our little 6-year-old grandbaby's probably going to be a vandal.
Oh, so is my husband, so we have a connection.
We served with honor. My husband was an Air Force officer, so he went through all sorts of training with the Air Force, and from there, we had an opportunity to live in California, in Upper Michigan, in Florida and Alabama for a little bit, and then came back here to Fairchild. I jumped into law school. My husband was still in the Air Force on a B-52 crew, so we kind of exchanged the children, and he saw how fun it was to go to law school. So when I graduated, he went to law school too. Our children just realized that our dining room table was really not meant so much for eating as for studying. Yellow tablets and notebooks and a little bit of argument going on back and forth, which I think prompted them to go to every class they could at high school in debate. And that was demoralizing for their lawyer parents because the teachers taught them how to win and how to anticipate the other argument, and it was very fun. But it was really based on what we considered a solid education from our grounding at Idaho through Gonzaga Law School, and we're proud to say that that is the type of thing that really drives us when it comes to our children, when it comes in my work to our work in the juvenile department, etc. And education really has to be a part of any just decision when it comes to children. Oh. So it's a foundation and a key as far as I'm concerned.
Well, in addition to that formal education, there are informal education opportunities, the kinds of things that you mentioned, some of them, the community organizations that you belong to, but how about a first job, a first work experience?
My first job was at A&W Restaurant in Bonners Ferry. And then I graduated to the department store downtown when I was in college. I learned, not surprisingly, hard work and responsibility and accountability. And my supervisors, the owners of each of those establishments, cared very much about customer service and the welcoming manner in which we greet the customers, but also a very strict requirement that your place is neat, you put things away. You are the face of this entity, and we expect that to be welcoming.
So, no, Kent is practicing a new way of signaling me now instead of speaking in my ear. So apparently we have about 5 minutes.
Oh, dear.
So a key turning point to now you went to law school but now you're a judge. So
Yes.
what made you interested in the judicial side of the legal system?
Well, back in high school, when we began to take those aptitude tests, I was thinking world travel or some sort of exciting, adventurous career. But everything came back judge. Not necessarily law, but more particularly judicial. And I hope that wasn't because I was judgmental. But it did stick in my mind, and I was always interested in law. So with that law degree, and the practice area, my very first practice area was as a law clerk to Judge Phil Thompson at the Court of Appeals. So I got to see the most wonderful judge and work hand in hand with him and have him mentor me into what it really means to be a good judge, to take both sides and resolve the case properly. So that was a little seed that was planted also. I had a wonderful career in law, practicing law, and I had folks from my past remind me that I had an interest and perhaps an aptitude. So with a little encouragement, I put my name in for appointment to, I first started out with the Court of Appeals as far as seeking an appointment. That was not successful, but I was offered in that entire process the chance to be appointed as a trial judge, and I was so grateful for that, and I haven't looked back since.
So I think that's an interesting way that you came to this. A little seed planted in high school. It kind of stayed there in the back of your mind, and then a good mentor when you first got out of law school.
I think it was fertilized by work on the school board, where we quite frequently sat in a quasi-judicial capacity on student hearings and a little bit of Chamber of Commerce work, etc. So there were a broad set of issues that helped me be grounded and focus and formalize that goal.
Okay, well, the closing question, your summation, is to answer the question, why should people vote for Judge Linda Tompkins for Spokane County Superior Court Position 10?
Thank you, Sulani. Again, the grounding, the understanding of our community and various facets. I also had experience on the State Transportation Commission. Very disparate pieces, but it was a very formative time in my career as well, and it became part of how I approach things. It's not just one question, although a trial judge really has a small piece of the pie that we see. But this judge knows that there are impacts of real people out there, and that is most important for a good judge to keep in mind always. To also care about the results and the outcomes, to make sure that they are based on facts, law, and the evidence that is before me, and not going outside of that evidence. I have had experience now as presiding judge, as chief family law judge. My greatest joy has been presiding over therapeutic court and seeing folks that are charged with felony drug crimes master what they needed to behaviorally to put themselves back in families, in jobs, in education. and move forward productively. That needs to be, I think, a part of a judge's experience as well, to realize that there's hope out there and that there are other alternatives that a jurist has to take into consideration. We're also on the eve of beginning to study alternatives to jailing people, and it's in its infancy. It needs more work, but the goal is to develop more objective standards to measure a person's risk to the community, so we know who we're letting out and who must stay in confinement. And we're hoping that that tool will be of great assistance. I'm excited about that, and I don't want to stop the learning process or the involvement right now, as I think we need to have a good understanding of our history to recognize the direction we need to go in the future. That's what I bring to the court.
I thank you for that summation, and appreciate having you come on the program.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Meet the Candidate is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. The Meet the Candidate series is sponsored as a community service by the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, the Law Office of D.C. Cronin, and We Believe, We Vote. All Meet the Candidate conversations are posted on our YouTube channel, posted as a podcast on our website, and will be featured in our 24/7 live stream. Find us at SpokaneTalksOnline.com.